Joining us right now are Paulette Filion and Judy Paradi from StrategyMarketing.ca. It's great to have you here. It's great to talk to you, find out more about what you're here to talk about at the Inside ETFs conference.
Okay, women love to talk. Paulette and I, the company, StrategyMarketing.ca, was formed in order to connect the financial community with women who are not being very well served, women who invest. Right. So it's not specifically ETFs, but it has a lot of crossovers.
Yeah, and we work with financial organizations and financial advisors in terms of how to do a better job and in what women want and how to relate to money.
Well, women are rising very rapidly in financial influence in terms of making financial decisions, managing money, asset management in particular, and also on their own in terms of managing family assets. And I think but one of the things you've pointed out is that women are having difficulty connecting with a financial advisor.
Absolutely. So women not only make financial decisions, because they make 85% of the financial decisions. So literally in the household, you may decide to look at 3 different cars, but it's the woman that's going to say, that's the one we're going to buy. So they had a lot of power from a decision-making process, even in the past. But now, in the last, I guess, certainly 5 years, in terms of wealth management, it's not just making the decisions. They're inheriting from parents. They're inheriting from boomer husbands that are passing away. Women will control the financial wealth of their family for 16 years before the millennials, before the kids get it. So I think the stats, Paulette, are by 2020, women will control 67%. So they're not a niche market for
It's surprising, though, isn't it? Because women are living longer.
Yeah, they're living longer, and 90% of women will, at some point in their lives, be solely responsible for financial matters.
I like I think the reality of the de facto decision-making angle that behind the men historically is the woman making the decision, the final say-so, the final approval.
And women just relate to money differently than men. So what's been delivered from financial companies and financial advisors all these years just isn't the way women relate. Women relate to money much more through their goals. So it's not about how big is my pile or how much have I earned or what's my rate of return or where are my assets allocated. It's about, can I travel the world? Can I stay in my house when I get older? Do I have enough to retire on?
And I think that's where the disconnect is.
And that's exactly where the disconnect is. It's not that this is...
The concerns, the worries, the objectives, the goals are all very different, aren't they?
So financial, women are at a trajectory of lightning speed in terms of having wealth, of managing wealth, and the financial advisors are starting to catch up, saying it's not about rates of return. If I want this clientele, if I want this base, because I can't, my success depends on women. If I don't have that, if I don't catch up, then I'm going to be left out. So it's definitely to their benefit.
So what do you think's missing from the equation, from the relationship or the failure to connect with advisors?
It's going to take a while. I'll sort of mention what I think, but the male advisors have learned how to service their male clients, and it made sense. It was the golf course, it was rates of return, it was all the things that men are more interested in or relate better to. They've not learned how to listen to women. They've not learned that for women, again, we keep repeating it, but it's not about rates of return. It's about, I want to be able to help my grandchildren. I want to be able to travel when I retire. I want to be able to pay my car off. It's a relationship for women, and I think it'll take a while, and that's what we do. We offer courses, we train people, is helping advisors understand that they have to put their own egos in their pockets, that it's not about them, it's not about how well they do, it's not about how smart they are, it's about the client. What does she want? And I think we've said this before, but the ones that do it well with women, it helps them in all their business.
And women are looking, to be part of the equation. They want to feel a part of the conversation that's going on. And too many times they feel that they're being ignored. No one's asking them, well, so what do you think? What do you think about, Bob wants to retire in Northern Ontario. What's your plan?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we often say the retirement plan is not for him, it's for her. And if you don't get her perspective on what she wants to do, what's important to her, then you probably will miss the mark in terms of building the right retirement plan. And women want to feel like they can contribute to the conversation, that they are a partner in all of this. And that because the way women relate to people, it's all about relationship. It's all about, can I trust you? Would I hand my mother's money over to you? What do I know about you? What do you know about me? And we often say to financial advisors, just be interested in her and her life and her perspective, and you'll go a long way in terms of meeting her needs.
And listen.
Yeah,
listen.
Absolutely.
But it's not just simply having your ear out and listening. I think it's listening for the cues.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. You make a really, really good point there, because we say, listening isn't just to sort of sit there and be on hold and say, that's really interesting. Mm-hmm. And then, by the way, here's my plan for you. It's connecting.
Here's my male-tilted financial plan that I would have given to.
Yeah. So it's not just a thank you, that was great. We have a lovely story of a woman who said that, her advisor always came and he smiled and he was happy and he say, ask her questions about her. And after the 5th time he'd come and he'd say, so how are your lovely brothers or sisters, I think? And she said, I only have brothers. I've told you that 10 times.
Right.
So he's listening, but it's not. He's just being polite.
It's disingenuous.
And you and you're just going to shoot yourself in the foot. So listen and use what you've heard. Listen in a genuine way and make that your prescription. You want to retire at 55? Here's how we can do that. You have the wonderful story about the woman who wanted to retire or buy a home in Italy.
Yes. And this was a woman who initially told us, no, I'm interested in the rate of return. I want to know what my portfolio is doing, blah, 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 blah. But she said, my husband and I are planning to buy a place in Italy. And she went to the financial advisor like 5 years before they were retired. And she had told the financial advisor, I want to talk about how we can turn this pile of money that we've been accumulating into that, what we want to do in Italy. And the financial advisor stuck to, the agenda that had been prepared, and here's what you own, and here's what we bought, and here's where the assets are allocated. And she walked away thinking, oh my God, like I want to talk about this home in Italy because it's so important to us. And now I'm seeing that there's a gap between how I've been dealing with this money, which has always been around what's the portfolio doing, and now I can't get the financial advisor to talk in terms of turning that money into our dream, into our goal. And she really felt like slighted by this, and she was frustrated with not being able to have that conversation.
Well, it probably only takes 1 or maybe 2 or 3 times where you feel like you're not being heard to give up.
That's right.
And you know what the sad thing for advisors is that women will rarely complain. They'll just leave.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's what you didn't hear.
They don't know.
It's what you didn't find out that you should be worried about.
You haven't been listening to me. I'm not happy with you. They'll just call you one day and say, sorry, I found someone else.
Or the someone else is transferring the assets.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sure.
There was another financial advisor. We've got tons of stories, but there was another
financial
advisor.
This is great. This is terrific.
Who dealt primarily with the husband. The wife didn't want to be included, and he had a very good relationship. He had delivered exceptional rates of return, grown the portfolio. Everything was great. And then all of a sudden there was a request to transfer the account, and he was like stunned, like he thought he had a great. And he went to see the husband, and he said, "What happened here? What's going on?" And he said, "Well, our needs are changing, and we think you've done what you needed to do. Mm-hmm. Now we need someone else." And he said, "Well, what do you mean you need somebody else?" And he said, "Well, we have a disabled child." He had never he
knew.
dealt
Wow.
with this man for 20 years, and he never known he had a disabled child. Well, if the woman had been at the table, that would have been her priority. That would have been on the table from day one, and he just never, the man never brought it up, he never asked, and all of a sudden he lost the account simply because the
Right.
wife said, well, we've got to take care of our child. Or, well, an
And you
adult
know what?
at
And
that
sometimes
point.
it's even smaller things.
Yeah.
And there's so many things. One of the things we talked about in there was, respecting women and what respect means. And, men think it's, well, I pull out the chair for her. I respect her. But respecting is respecting her time, not saying, I only take appointments Monday from 7 to 9. It's saying, when do you want to have an appointment? Being respectful is not speaking jargon. It's speaking as a human being. And we have one lovely advisor who we helped do a number of things. And at the end of it all, he said, "Thanks, girls." That's disrespectful. He had no idea.
Right.
Yeah,
He
you
had
didn't
no
even
idea.
notice he said that.
No. But still, if somebody said to you, "Well, thanks, boys," unless it was one of your buddies.
Yeah, but it's the familiar. It's
very
overly
demeaning.
familiar, and
yeah,
it runs the risk. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. So again, we could be here for hours. We have so many stories.
So I want to talk about another angle on women and asset management. It's kind of interesting. It's timely as well. In the alternative space, which is a new sort of emerging aspect of financial markets, it turns out that wealthy women are more attuned to investing in alternatives than men, because they're different risk takers. They have a different. Women have a different view on risk than men. It goes to what we've been talking about. A different perspective on risk management, a different idea of how to see the landscape. And the cues are different, right? They're responding to different cues, and alternatives being real estate, gold, cash, real assets. And it would even play into, the Italy house story, right? Which is where an advisor who's listening could say, okay, that house is $1 million. It's in Tuscany. That might be a great diversifier, as well as your dream home.
I think the phrase that's often used is women aren't risk averse; they're risk aware.
I think more so in some cases than men. Women make very often. I mean, women who are in asset management, who are directly in the business's portfolio managers, have a very different view on markets, a more holistic approach.
You can address that.
Well, I think what I would say is that women want to know what they're investing in, and once women understand what they're investing in, they're much more. They have a similar or a slightly higher risk profile than men.
Exactly.
Because they understand what they're getting themselves into. They'll ask a lot of questions. They'll want to know, how is this going to help me get to where I'm going? But at the end of the day, they believe once they have understood that they're more willing to pull the trigger and stay the long term. That's the key.
You're talking about the money managers, though, right?
It cuts both ways, whether you're the investor or the asset manager. I think there's a universal element in there, which is the view on risk, the view on management, the sort of more holistic approach. And I think in that respect, I think women are more open-minded to other alternative ideas beyond beyond the traditional portfolio.
But they need to understand what they're investing in, and that's the key.
Sure. So time needs to be invested.
We're going to invest in this, and you don't need to know anything about it.
Well, that's why socially responsible investing is growing, because women are more in tune with that, and they will say, how do they treat their employees? How many females are there on the board? And so they are interested in that sort of thing. It's not just their rates of return are better than anyone else's. They want to know a little bit deeper about what's going on.
So what would be the most important nugget of wisdom that you would share
to financial advisors?
Sure.
Well, we just said that in there. Listen, put your ego in your pocket, zip it up, and just listen. As advisors want to go in with their presentation. This is what we do. This is what I do. This is how successful I am. Look at the car I drive. I'm wearing a Rolex. And that works with men. Men, he looks pretty successful. I want in. It doesn't work with women. Women will more than likely say, how come he can afford a watch? Is that where my money is going? So I think that's...
and we say to financial advisors, there's a lot to do here, because women are more complicated than many think. But pick something. Pick one thing that you can do better, that comes naturally to you, or that you're interested in. Get involved with women's organizations, where they convene, where they learn about women. Ask them. Women are very willing to share. If a financial advisor says, "Look, I'm trying to develop a bigger business of working with women," what's been your experience?
But
with
talk to family, right? We say talk to your sister, your sister-in-law, or anybody, all the women in your life, and say, what can I do? How can I be a better advisor? Even if they're not clients, don't just say, I'm going to ask clients. Ask anybody.
No, but it's developing an understanding of the cues, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And learning what's important to women. And then delivering, hopefully, at the other end, and saying, okay, I'm going to try and do a better job with this.
Well, Paulette, Judy, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you.
It's our pleasure.
Our pleasure to talk to you.
StrategyMarketing.ca. Thank you very much.
Thank you.